This is Colonel Assimi Goita, a Dogon tribesman born on November 1st, 1983 in central Mali. Always been interested in joining the army and eventually doing so in the Malian armed forces. He served within Mali and abroad. He specialized in counter-terrorism operations. Assimi overthrew President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita in August of 2020 due to similar reasons that made Ibrahim Traore oust Lieutenant Damiba. National insecurity from Islamic jihadist groups, corruption, and economic hardship, ladies and gentlemen, were some of the reasons that made Assimi Goita oust that president. Colonel Goita emerged as the leader of the army group that orchestrated the coup. The group's name was the National Committee for the Salvation of the People. And this group, ladies and gentlemen, chose this man, Ba Indor, as interim transitional president. Goita was his interim vice president. But on May 2021, Goita staged his second coup. He didn't like how the transition president was handling things, so he removed him and declared himself president of Mali. As usual, the French government wasn't in support of it, including other international bodies, because there are quite a number of multinational mining companies in Mali. So international sanctions were immediately imposed on Mali. On May 30th, 2021, ECOWAS joined in to impose sanctions on Mali for the coup. ECOWAS again suspended Mali from all forms of decision-making in the organization. And by January 9th, 2022, ECOWAS once again imposed more severe sanctions on Mali for the reasons of Goita extending the date for elections from 2022 to 2025. No planes, no cars, no trucks moving in and out of Mali to any ECOWAS member country until in July of 2022, when the sanctions were lifted, because Goita had agreed to supervise an election for a civilian president and for constitutional reforms by March of 2024. But by September of 2023, the transitional government postponed it indefinitely due to logistical challenges. The logistical obstacles were compounded by ongoing insecurities in the country, particularly in the areas affected by the jihadist violence, which hindered preparations for free and fair elections. So, ladies and gentlemen, the referendum for constitutional reform happened on June 18th, 2023. But the elections for president and the legislatures couldn't happen till this day. Now, ever since these incidents, Assimi Goita changed his approach towards ruling Mali. He started implementing some of their reforms in their new constitution, which was just completed. This is the video when the draft of the new constitution was presented to civil society groups, politicians, and religious leaders. Take a look.
The draft constitution is the subject of our meeting today. It's the result of discussions during which the members of the commission freely expressed themselves and took into account the major concerns expressed by Malians. Initially, the referendum for its adoption was to be held on Sunday, March 19, but was later postponed.
He had no time to waste, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, the new constitution was approved with an overwhelming majority of over 97% of votes cast, reflecting broad support among those who participated. The reforms included decentralizing the administration of the country. Mali used to be like Ghana, ladies and gentlemen, where our system required that all state revenue and taxes are sent to the central government and from there disbursed. But the new reforms has now strengthened local governments in the country. This means the local government can now raise revenue and manage the revenue, whether from within or outside the country. And a certain percentage moved to the central government. In addition to that, Assimi Goita has prioritized rebuilding Mali's armed forces, focusing on equipping them to combat extremist groups active in the northern and central parts of the country. He disconnected his country from the French and connected with the Russians and the Wagner Group. The new reforms have now eliminated the role of their Senate for the primary reason of costs. The country was spending too much of national resources on running and maintaining a Senate, so they scrapped it. When you look carefully at what's happening in Mali and compare that with West Africa, you realize we all have the same problems when it comes to the size of government. Our governments are super big with a whole lot of benefits and incentives, but with very little to show for as a country. It's just interesting how this whole block of countries do things. Finally, the reforms has now made Mali a secular state with a secular government instead of religious. So even though it's estimated that 95% of the population of Mali are Muslims, the new leader has now chosen the path of secularism, which to me is the right thing to do. Leave the people to practice their religion and allow government to operate based on practical modern ideas that predicts development and human prosperity and not religious ones. Now, the most recent viral news going around about Mali and the decision of the junta has to do with their quest to take control over the resources of their country. Remember, there are still sanctions on them from the European Union, the United States of America, and other international entities. And so, they have to raise capital from within. And at the same time, the junta had to decide to pay off all internal debts owed to local banks and financial establishments and contractors. The total figure was estimated at $332 million US. This would help the local businesses of the country to have liquid and grow the local economy. So the junta, which simply means military group in charge of the country, took a direct approach to up the country's percentage shareholding to at least 35% of all multinational mining companies in the country. This was a big blow in the face of the investors of these mining companies, which included Barrick Gold from Canada, Resolute Gold from Australia, Anglo Gold Ashanti from South Africa and Ghana, H Resources from the UK, and B2 Gold also from Canada. Recently, it was in the news that the junta had a scuffle with the Australian mining company Resolute over tax obligations and renegotiations of their mining agreement. Few hours ago also, the junta also seized some bars of gold from another Canadian mining company for what they term as a lack of transparency reasons. One other huge mining company in Mali is owned by the Chinese. They mine lithium called Gunfen Lithium. The junta seeks to have at least 35% shares in all of these mines, no matter the agreements they've had with previous regimes. Ladies and gentlemen, it appears Africans are growing balls now. It is no more business as usual, where a small group of politicians sign off our resources to foreigners for peanuts to their country and a good percentage to themselves. It's beginning to feel different in Africa under the new types of leadership. Like I said in my previous video, it's time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the underdogs to step up and move forward. Africa has never been devoid of brave men. We have always had brave men amongst us, except that we have always chosen to be on the endurance end instead of being on the offensive. But this time, the spirit of Kwame Nkrumah is awake. Thomas Sankara and Julius Kambarage Nyerere are back alive with us. This fire must continue until Africa is economically liberated. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be here to bring you that information. Thank you for your time, and be kind to subscribe and click on the notification bell for more of my content. God bless Africa, and it's bye-bye for now.